An old Discover customer is freaking out. They said, I got sued for $2,000 right before Christmas and couldn't even include my debt settlement program. And Discover has been taking people straight to court for years. Just ask Dave Ramsey.
Well, I'm a bit scared. I just got a notice in the mail to be summoned to court for a credit card that I haven't paid in a couple of months.
And who's the credit card with?
It's with Discover.
If Discover Bank has sued you for unpaid credit card debt, you're in a tight spot, and ignoring it only makes it worse. Failing to act could mean wage garnishment, frozen bank accounts, or even liens on your property. Worse still, Discover is notorious for being one of the fastest to take legal action among the major credit card companies. Coming up, you're going to see the heartbreaking real-life stories of people taken to court over relatively small amounts of debt, why Discover sues so aggressively, the sneaky legal tactics to watch out for, and the 4 actionable steps you can take to defend yourself. But listen, I'll say at least one thing good in this video about Discover. They allow you to get pre-approved for their credit cards without a hard credit pull. This should really be an industry standard, but unfortunately it's not. That's why I created a free credit card pre-approval master list with over 60 cards updated monthly. Once you get pre-approved from the bank itself, you can have a lot more confidence before you apply, and sometimes even see your starting credit limit before you accept the card. I'll drop a link to that below so you can take a look and get instant access. Now, this next story is an absolute nightmare because the holidays are supposed to be magical, right? When everything's cozy, the lights are glowing, and you're looking forward to spending time with your loved ones. Now imagine all that coming to a screeching halt because a lawsuit shows up at your front door. That's exactly what happened to a Discover cardholder from Reddit who shared their gut-wrenching experience of being sued by Discover for just $2,000 in debt just weeks before Christmas. For them, the lawsuit felt like a cruel twist in an already difficult journey. They were enrolled in a debt settlement program, clinging to hope that this step would finally offer some financial stability. But Discover's legal action excluded their debt from the program, ruining their fragile plans. Adding insult to injury, they were battling unemployment and teetering on the edge of mortgage default, a storm of stress no one should have to weather, especially during what should be the most joyful time of the year. As the legal papers piled up, so did their fear. Discover's lawyers demanded $170 per month, a figure that might seem low to some, but was utterly out of reach for them. The imminent threats of account freezes, wage garnishments, and the potential inability to pay for basic necessities like food and utilities turned every waking moment into a nightmare for them. The lack of legal knowledge and resources compounded their anxiety. How do you navigate a courtroom when you've never been in one before? What happens if you can't make the payments they demand? These questions swirled in their mind, feeding the paralyzing fear that comes with feeling powerless against a giant corporation like Discover. Despite feeling overwhelmed, they made the brave decision to fight back. Armed with nothing more than determination and a pile of financial documents, they prepared for court. It wasn't easy though. In the courtroom, they shared their story of financial hardship, painting a vivid picture of the struggles they face. Instead of backing down, they negotiated directly with Discover's attorneys. Their persistence paid off too, when they managed to secure a continuance, buying precious time to create a plan they could realistically manage. Their story is a reminder that while debt collection lawsuits are terrifying, they're not impossible. With courage, a plan, and a willingness to stand up for yourself, it's possible to take control even when it feels like the odds are stacked against you. And Discover doesn't play around when it comes to debt collection. While most credit card companies rely heavily on third-party collection agencies, Discover takes a more aggressive, hands-on approach that sets us apart. They operate an in-house legal team, a strategic advantage that saves them money and makes the decision to file lawsuits far easier. This streamlined process allows them to turn up the heat on people like you with little hesitation. For those struggling with unpaid debts, this can feel like being cornered by a predator. Lawsuits are not just a method of recovery for Discover, they're a weapon of intimidation. The mere threat of legal action often pushes people to settle quickly, even if they can barely afford it. Now, the result is Discover gets what they want with minimal resistance, while many people are left scrambling to figure out how to make ends meet. I found there are three main reasons why Discover will sue you. Number one is high debt amounts. For many creditors, small debts aren't worth the effort of filing a lawsuit, but Discover often draws the line at $1,500, making it more likely that mid-range debts will land in court. And then delinquent accounts that have gone 6 months or more without payment, send a clear signal to Discover's team it's time to escalate. Also, failed collection attempts. Discover doesn't jump to legal action right away. They'll try the usual calls and letters and settlement offers first. But when those fail, they're quick to pivot to litigation, using the court system to apply even more pressure to you. Now, for those on the receiving end of this process, it feels like walking on a tightrope. Each ignored letter or missed payment edges you closer to the tipping point. What makes Discover especially problematic in the world of debt collection is that it operates as the original creditor in lawsuits. This distinction gives them access to airtight documentation detail records of your account history, your payment terms, and agreements that leave little room for argument in court. In contrast, third-party collection agencies often purchase debts at a discount, and their lawsuits can sometimes be challenged due to incomplete or inaccurate paperwork. Now, Discover, however, doesn't rely on these agencies. They file lawsuits directly, armed with the original agreements and a legal team that knows how to use them. For most people, this makes Discover a tougher opponent to face. They're more prepared, more persistent, and often more successful in their pursuit of repayment. While other credit card companies might hesitate to take things to court, Discover's in-house operation makes it clear if you owe them money and don't pay, they're not afraid to escalate. Their approach may be efficient for their bottom line, but for those caught in their crosshairs, it's a stressful and overwhelming experience. Now, if you find yourself on the receiving end of a lawsuit from a credit card company like Discover, it can feel like a punch to the gut. It's a daunting experience, but it's not the end of the world. With a clear plan, you can take control of the situation and protect yourself. The first thing you want to do is respond to the lawsuit. Don't ignore it. Failing to respond could result in a default judgment where the court automatically rules in Discover's favor. It's like forfeiting a game without even showing up. Your response should include any defenses you might have. For example, improper service. Were you properly notified of the lawsuit? And then statute of limitations. Has the legal time limit for collecting the debt expired? Also, lack of documentation. Does Discover have the proper paperwork to prove you owe the debt? This step not only protects your rights, but also forces Discover to prove their case in court, which isn't always as easy as they might expect. You can send a debt validation letter. Even though Discover is the original creditor and not a third-party collector, sending a debt validation letter can be a smart move. This letter formally request proof of the debt, ensuring they have all the documentation to back up their claims. And here's what you want to ask for: proof the debt is valid, evidence that Discover has the legal right to collect it, a detailed breakdown of how the debt amount was calculated. And here's why it's worth it. It forces Discover to dig through their records, which can sometimes reveal mistakes or inconsistencies. And it buys you time to organize your defense or negotiate a settlement. And you'll want to send that letter within 30 days of receiving notice of the debt. You also want to use certified mail to track delivery and clearly state your request for proof and a detailed accounting of the debt. I'll leave a link below to an example debt validation letter that you can use completely for free. Now, it's important to note, Discover as the original creditor isn't bound by the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, but state laws might still require them to respond. Now, keep in mind, though, that sending this letter doesn't stop the clock. You still need to file a formal response with the court. Next, you want to explore settlement options. Find common ground. If going to court feels overwhelming, consider negotiating with Discover to settle the debt outside of court. This can save time, stress, and even money. You can try a lump sum settlement. Offer a single payment that's less than the total amount owed. Most creditors often accept these offers to close the case quickly. On average, I've seen offers as low as 40% of the original debt being accepted by Discover. You can also try a payment plan. Propose manageable monthly payments based on your financial situation. I've seen others extending payments out to 24 months with Discover. And when negotiating, be honest about your financial hardship. Highlight unemployment, medical expenses, or other challenges can make creditors more willing to work with you. Remember, they'd rather get something than risk getting nothing. And you also want to make sure you protect your assets. Protect what's yours. One of the most nerve-wracking aspects of lawsuits is the possibility of wage garnishment or frozen bank accounts. A lot of people don't talk about this, but taking aggressive steps can help protect your finances. You want to move direct deposits, switch your paycheck or benefits to an account Discover doesn't know about, and avoid large balances in vulnerable accounts. Keep only what you need in accounts that could be garnished, and consider using alternative banking options to shield your money. And you can consider using legal help to level the playing field. Navigating a lawsuit on your own can feel like showing up to a chess match without knowing the rules. This is where legal help can make all the difference. If you look for a consumer law attorney, they specialize in challenging documentation, finding procedural errors, and negotiating better terms for you. Sometimes they can even get the case dismissed entirely. There's even legal aid organizations. If hiring a lawyer feels out of reach, many nonprofits offer free or low-cost help. They can guide you through drafting responses, preparing for court, and understanding your rights. I really think having someone in your corner who understands the legal system can ease the burden and give you the best chance of a favorable outcome. Now, after hearing all of this, you might think Discover is a company that everybody should avoid. And that's just not true. Discover is great for someone new to credit or trying to rebuild their credit. Discover only becomes an issue when you stop paying your bill and your debt gets charged off. That's the real issue. But here's the thing. There are two credit card companies everyone should probably be avoiding. These two banks are infamous for slashing credit limits outright and then shutting down accounts, often leaving their customers blindsided and wiping out tens of thousands of dollars in available credit. Check out this next video here to learn who they are and why you should be avoiding them. Thank you for watching.